said you had the answer to it all. You never told me I'd take a fall. Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Hi, everybody.
You turn
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another video edition of the Empty Tomb Addiction Recovery Forum. Happy Mother's Day. It's good to see you all. Today, I'm actually going to talk about something that's really important, or one of the steps that's really important of a 12-step program. Now, all the steps, of course, are important, but this one's so important that if you don't do it, it's really hard to focus on your recovery. And it's step 4. And why is it so difficult? I mean, a lot of people call themselves 3-steppers. They just want to skip it altogether. But why is it so important? Well, one of the reasons is that this is what we like to call the mirror step. This is where you have to take a look at yourself, do an inventory, write down and look at all the damage you have done to others. But it's really important, especially in early recovery. Now, of course, mirrors turn everything around. So I'm going to do that with this step. I'm turning it around. So now I'm going to be somebody who is observing a loved one or a friend or spouse who has addiction and not knowing what to do. Tried everything, tough love, enabling, none of that stuff works. And everything is different for everybody. But there is a way. And one of the things people in early recovery really need, in addition to support groups, is support from their friends and family. And again, that's really tough because they've done so much damage. They've hurt so many people. So what can we do to help them out? Well, here's part of a 12-step program, and this one's spiritual based. And it's basically looking in the mirror at yourself and see, well, how can I help them, especially if I know they weren't always like this. And let's just remember, nobody grows up and says someday, I want to be an addict. It just doesn't happen that way. But life happens, and eventually it can happen. Someone makes bad choices, and they become an addict. They choose to do it. But when they get to that point where they want help, we need to be the ones to help them, not turn away. I used to get a lot of this from members of a church that I used to be in. When I would go with missionaries to help people or visit people, I would get a lot of members of this church who would say to me, well, why do we need your help? We don't have those kinds of problems here in our area. Well, the fact is they do. And when I would tell them my story about my sobriety, after I told them that was an alcoholic, every one of them would do this like, oh dear, oh my. You could just see the judging. Instead of looking at me who I am now, they would look at me who I used to be. And we get that a lot. So I didn't get their support at all, but the fact is I knew what I was doing. But here's a way to help people in a loving way. And one of the closest, especially if you're a Christian base, the knowledge is one of the closest, if not equal to love from God Himself, is a mother's love. Because they look at us for who they really are. I mean, they gave birth to us. They saw us as babies. They saw us make mistakes. But the love doesn't go away. And if we focus on that, we can help people who are trying to overcome addiction. Here is an excerpt from a 12-step program that says, understanding we are children of God. And if you don't have a Christian base, just very simple, understanding we are children. We're people. Our loved ones' choices may impact how we see ourselves and how we see life. We may begin to define ourselves by our experience with our loved ones' choices, as they can sometimes seem all-encompassing. It is important that we remember who we are and why we are here on earth. This is where the process of healing begins. So, when we look at people who are trying to overcome addiction, let's do all we can to help them. Just look at the mirror and see ourselves. Who am I? Am I that wonderful? Did I cause this? I mean, these are just questions you can ask yourself. There's no real answer. But if we just try our hardest to help those who are suffering from addiction, Let's look in the mirror first and say, what can I do to really help? Um, Here's a picture that was taken, and this is my mom. As you can see, she was wearing a piñata on her head. I don't know why, but that was what she wore that day. Apparently, she had passed away later that night. But it brings me comfort and joy knowing that she knew that I could do it, that I could overcome the addiction, that I could be sober. So I had love from God and I had love from her. I just sure didn't get it from anybody else. But it was so important to know that I got it from her. So let's look at ourselves, look at each other, and let's look at each other equally. Because we all have things we need to work on. So happy Mother's Day. Thank you for your service, moms. And see you next time. And I guess I got a remote again to play with. Take it right.